Hey guys, today me and my friends are going to talk a little bit one of the most complex and important processes that happened in Brazil, which is the abolition of the slavery. So this process was not like a sudden event, but it actually took some decades to happen. And the Portuguese crown, and later the Brazilian Empire, initially feared that a fast or immediate abolition could or would result on bloody revolts, such as those that happened in Haiti in the lesser extent in the United States. So the external pressure here, primarily from England, will be really crucial, because since the arrival of the Portuguese crown in Brazil on 1808, Dom João VI, who was our king, was compelled to accept several treaties imposed by the English people, which aimed to restrict or eventually eliminate the slave trade, but it actually didn't work on an initial moment. So this international pressure marked the beginning of a slow dismantling of the slave system. And this entire process has been largely studied by modern historians and also in a less detailed way for high schoolers. So now my friends are going to explain a little bit how this happens and the examples of the laws and some context about how it happened.
Continuing the provision speech, an important milestone happened during the Regency period. In 1831, a law was created saying that all enslaved people who arrived in Brazil from the date would be free, whatever. This law was mostly ignorant and the illegal slave trade continued about 20 years. During the second, strong laws were made that truly began the process of ending slavery. The Eusébio de Queiroz law from 1860 banned the slavery from Africa to Brazil, stopping the main source of new enslaved people. Later, the Free Bond Law from 1871, declaring the children born to enslaved women after the date would be free, although many still have to serve this master for years. Finally, the Sexagenary Law from 1885 guaranteed freedom to enslaved people over 16 years old. In practice, it told few benefits because the life expectancy was low and many were still forced to work.
These laws illustrate the sluggishness and the resistance of the agrarian elite. Many landowners were dissatisfied with the situation and demanded financial compensation from the government for the loss of their property, which undoubtedly delayed the process. On the other hand, social factors were accelerating the movement. The end of the Paraguayan War in 1870 was a turning point. On the battlefield, black, pardo, and white Brazilians fought side by side. This forced coexistence, where blood and sacrifice were shared, changed the perception of many, especially in the middle and the lower classes of the society, for whom abolition was no longer seen as a problem, but as a matter of honor and social justice. The slave system was seriously undermined by the constant resistance and the mass fights. Furthermore, the mass fights of the enslaved people and the strong organization of the abolitionist movement undermined the slave structure from within.
Finally, the process culminated on May 13, 1888, with the signing of Lei Áurea by Princess Isabel, formally ending slavery in Brazil. Undeniably, it was a monumental achievement for the black population and the abolitionist movement. However, the story doesn't end there. Although the formerly enslaved people did not receive any social inclusion or reparation, no support was offered by the government to the newly freed population. The Brazilian state simply freed them, leaving them without access to land, to education, and decent work opportunities. The absence of public policies to integrate this new population into society resulted in marginalization and poverty. This exclusion and the denial of rights in the post-abolitional period created a legacy of inequality that persists to this day in the form of structural racism and the lack of opportunities for the Black population. With this reflection, we conclude our video. We hope that this analysis helps everyone to understand that abolition was a complex process, full of pressures, and its legacy of exclusion is something that Brazil still needs to confront. Thank you for everyone for the attention, and bye!